Trustee elections is a problem in the retirement industry because it's a very it's a big process. It's a very cumbersome process sometimes, and we're looking at ways of making that more effective. And today I've got Sarah Heuer, who's the Director of Communications at ElectionWorx, with me to talk about some of those processes and things and what makes this different to the current process. Sarah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chris. Thank you so much for having me.
So tell me, what's this process all about? Explain to me, what is an online election? How does that work?
Well, we noticed in our industry that running a physical trustee election can be extremely daunting, extremely time consuming, and the costs can run up to hundreds of thousands of rands as well. And as we've all grown accustomed to working remotely and working online, we thought it just made sense to start using digital technologies and the tools that are available to us to run a completely remote election that is completely electronic and online.
So Sarah, tell me, what are the benefits of moving to an online environment as opposed to, the old school manual environment?
Well, the moment you move away from a paper-based election to an electronic sort of option, you've got three categories of benefits. First category is in the fact that your costs are reduced, as well as your administration time is reduced, and the timelines that you need to run the election are also shorter. We suggest that you do 2 weeks for nominations and 2 weeks for elections. If you're doing paper-based, you probably need a much longer time. In terms of your actual participation rates, because it's so easy to participate and because people require less time to participate, you're more likely to get a good response on your elections. And then in terms of your results, it's far easier to audit and report on your results. Your results are more accurate, and the entire process is a lot more secure, and it's also POPIA compliant. So those for us are the main advantages of an online electronic election.
Well, that's really interesting. So tell me, what sort of participation does one have with an online session? What's your experience?
Well, what we aim for in a normal election is a 10% participation rate. We're very happy if we get a 10% participation rate, and that's much higher than we've seen in paper-based elections. Because we make it quicker and easier for people to get involved, because we use mobile platforms, all of this allows us to counteract member apathy. And it also means, because of the mobile aspect, that members don't even need to be in front of a computer to get involved. All they need is a smartphone, which is very nice if you're working with people who are working on shop floors or factory floors.
So Sarah, you mentioned 10% in the electronic environment, but surely in the future that should increase as things become easier. But how does that still compare to the old environment?
Absolutely, it will improve. I think a lot of people may still be slightly intimidated by anything where they have to register online, but once they realize that it is secure and that it is easy, the participation rate will come up. And if we compare that 10% to a paper-based election, just as a sort of a practical example, one of our clients had to rerun an election a few months ago because their paper-based version received 0 nominations. So, member apathy is a real thing, and for us, 10% is realistic at this point, but in the future, we'll probably increase that goal.
That's very good news, and I hope it does going forward. Given cybersecurity and people's sensitivity with POPIA legislation and all of that stuff, how safe is this kind of environment online?
Well, POPIA is something that we take very seriously, and the entire ElectionWorx team actually does POPIA training on a regular basis. And our platform and everything on it is fully encrypted, completely secure. We host it on an HTTPS page. We use two-factor authentication to verify that the people who are registering are in fact who they say they are. And we ran a very large election for a medical scheme a few years ago where we were audited by PricewaterhouseCoopers, and we received a completely clean bill of health, and we do vulnerability and penetration tests on a very regular basis as well.
Excellent. That sounds very promising. So Sarah, practically, how does this work? What are the mechanics of doing an online election?
Well, we basically run two different options as well as a hybrid. The first is an email-based election where we do all the communication and members receive an invitation to either nominate or to vote, depending on where we are in the process. And that email directs them to our secure platform where they can register. They receive a one-time PIN via their email that is registered on the database to verify who they are. And we also use their ID number and their fund number to verify their identity. Then they can simply start typing in anybody's name and the system will autocomplete with all the eligible people that are available for either nomination, or when it's voting, their little profiles will appear. For a mobile election, very similar situation, except that everything is run via SMS. So the invitations and the links to nominate and vote will be sent via SMS. The one-time PIN will be sent via SMS as well. But other than that, everything still directs them to the same platform. The platform itself is completely mobile friendly. And honestly, it takes about 5 minutes to register and to make your voice heard. In unusual circumstances, we can also run a hybrid election. So say, for example, a fund has incomplete email and mobile data for their members. Our system can then choose to prioritize the mobile number, but then send a message to the email or the other way around, depending on what's available. We've also done mobile hybrids where we've also had a hard copy aspect. So if you're working with people that don't have access to smartphones or computers, we can provide HR with forms and with posters to promote the entire process. And then we just need HR to sort of buy into the process so that they scan and return all those hard copies to us, which we then load online so that we make sure that everything is recorded holistically and in the same place. It's very important that everything is recorded in the same place to ensure that nobody's voted more than they should have or nominated more than they should have. So any hard copies that we are given, we then load online so that we have a very comprehensive overview of the participation.
Excellent. And I also think, as things go forward with technology, the reach of technology, spreading more and more across, not just South Africa, but the broader Africa, I think that will become more commonplace and more inclusive over time, and certainly plays in favor of this type of functionality, for sure.
Absolutely, and I think it's so important from a corporate governance perspective to make sure that your member data is complete and accurate. So yes, absolutely. I think it bodes well for the future.
Excellent. So Sarah, you guys have obviously done quite a few of these. Have you got a specific case study that you can give us an example on, please?
Absolutely. We've done so many of them. Our machine is quite seamless and well-oiled at the moment, but I'd like to use as a case study one where our circumstances were not really ideal. It happened during the very first hard lockdown. Sorry for reminding you about that. It's trauma. But the client got hold of us and said that they had a 90-day deadline to conduct and finalize a trustee election. The client in question had a lot of people working remotely, well, everybody was working remotely, but they also had a lot of people who worked on factory floors who didn't necessarily have access to a computer. So what we decided to do was follow a multi-pronged approach where we allowed members to either nominate and vote online or via SMS or via hard copy. For the hard copy, we said they could simply photograph their ballot or their nomination form and return it to us either via email or via WhatsApp. So the WhatsApp line really caters for people who don't often work in front of a computer. It was a completely hybrid process, and we had 89 valid nominations. We had 391 valid ballots, which worked out to a total percent of 8% participation. So that's not what we aim for. But given this extenuating circumstances as a result of lockdown and the fact that our deadlines were reduced by 50%, we were quite happy with this result. We also try to keep in mind that I'm sure, as you'll remember, during lockdown, we were all quite stressed and we were worried about a lot of things other than our jobs and our funds. An election might not have been seen as a priority to these people at the time. So all in all, the 8% participation rate seemed pretty good to us.
Fair point. Got it. So given that, was the client happy with that outcome, Sarah?
They were extremely happy. We received very positive feedback, not only from the principal officer of the fund, but from the benefit consultant. The benefit consultant commended us and said that we did a really fantastic job, and he was very happy with the participation levels that we experienced. The principal officer of the fund actually said that this was quite a large amount of votes compared to one of their previous trustee election exercises where they hadn't used an online platform. So although 8% is lower than what we target, she thought it was actually a really good result, which kind of ties into what I said earlier about participation rates as well.
Well, and also, with a pre to post COVID sort of scenario,
yes,
that's brilliant.
Absolutely.
Well done.
Yeah.
So Sarah, tell me, what would you say be the most important consideration for funds to consider when they're contemplating going this route?
Well, the first thing that I ask any fund that approaches us for an online election is what percentage of mobile numbers and what percentage of email addresses do you have on record for your members, because that complete and accurate member data is critical. It's critical for communication, it's critical for verifying results, it's critical for auditing and reporting. And I mean, from a governance perspective as well, if you can't let everybody know that an election is happening, then that's not a free and fair election. So we suggest at the very minimum you should have every single member's ID number and fund number or payroll number, some kind of verification, as well as a mobile number and an email address. So yeah, I'm sure people are very tired of me carrying on about this, but data is critical.
Fair enough. Sarah, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. It's been very interesting. And I'm sure this is something that will keep developing as technology improves and as we go along, and get rid of the old legacy ways of doing things and move things more and more onto a digital platform. Thanks for your time.
100%.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Chris.
We'll chat soon. Fantastic.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.